Good morning. It's March 31st, a Friday, and over the course of time you will have relationships, and you will be put in situations that are not very good. But I have found over the years that the thing to do is to sit down and speak with the opposition and try and make them realize the position that you are in and the position that they are in. And I say that because of the situation in Israel. I'm not happy with the situation in Israel, and neither is the majority of the population in Israel happy with the situation there. They're not happy about the fact that under this new regime that was put together by Benjamin Netanyahu, that regime wants to strike down decisions made by the Supreme Court. Their Supreme Court, which is much different and operates much different than our Supreme Court. Their Supreme Court can pick cases, I'll call them cases, but they're really not cases. They can pick incidents, they can pick something that's going on and have a decision on that. Whereas in the United States, you must have a case. You must have an opposition to something that's going on. And that opposition goes through the legal system and eventually ends up in the Supreme Court. But that's not how the Israeli courts work. And so because of this, there's turmoil in that country, and that upsets me. But on top of that, what has upset me even more is that when any country and any relationship has good and bad days, we don't abandon them. We should step right up and face it. So Joe Biden's decision to not invite Benjamin Netanyahu to come to the United States and sit down with him and discuss the situation is a major mistake in my part. You can't show the world that you are abandoning Israel because you disagree with the way their current government is currently being run. That's a private matter, and that should be discussed privately. That should be discussed in your office or in Netanyahu's office. But you do not abandon your allies in front of a world that is dead set against them anyhow. Yes, we are a huge aid giver to Israel. And there is no reason for us to stop giving that aid just because we disagree with the way they're running the country right now. And I strongly disagree with the way they're trying to run that country right now. But I don't think that turning your back on them is the appropriate thing. Even though we're really not doing that, we will continue to give them aid. We just don't want to speak to them face to face. And that's a mistake. That's a mistake. We need to stand by Israel. And we need to show the people of Israel that we are not abandoning them. Because the people of Israel are fighting hard to overturn what Netanyahu and his associates are attempting to do there. I mean, they had rallies against the doing away with the way that the Supreme Court manages and allowing their Senate or Parliament or whatever they want to call it to overturn decisions by the court. That's unheard of. Certainly doesn't happen in the United States. And the problem in Israel is not that they're doing this, is that they have no rule. They have no real constitution. So instead of a formal document like our Constitution, Israel has fallen far short of that mark. Israel has evolved a system of what they call basic laws and rights. And these laws and rights enjoy a semi-constitutional status. But the way the courts operate there is they can just pick and choose any situation they want without a case being brought before them. And they can take action on those situations. And quite often those situations don't need any action. But the court has decided to do something. And this particular situation that is running Israel legally is inadequate now. Israel really needs to sit down and write a written constitution. And never before in the history of this country has the need for such a document been so urgent. as it is right now. Because this government that Netanyahu has constructed is extremely right-wing. And they have gone off the edge, so to speak. So Israel needs a constitution that defines the structure of government and limits its powers. A written constitution defines the separation of powers between the branches of government. It also reminds state institutions that their powers are limited and that their operation is subject to the rule of law. And so when we look at this example, that the tension that exists between today's Supreme Court and the Knesset is mainly because there's a lack of a constitution clearly defining the respective powers of the judiciary and the legislature. And the legislature wants to take control and overturn everything that the Israeli Supreme Court does. If they don't like the decision, they're going to overturn it. That's preposterous to allow that to exist. And so this situation is a terrible situation. And it has to be rectified. But banning Netanyahu from a visit to the United States to discuss the matter and possibly come up with a solution is a big mistake on the part of Biden and his government. Biden needs to sit down and explain to Netanyahu the realities of life without a constitution. He needs to explain to him why the U.S. is so strongly on Israel's side and will not abandon them. But he needs to make sure that Netanyahu understands that they have to behave in a manner that is much different than the way they are behaving right now. Israel is on the verge of creating a dictatorship. Yes, they will have a Knesset that overrides things, but Netanyahu will be the leader. He will be the dictator. And that is not what the U.S. wants Israel to be. It's not what I want Israel to be. So Israel has a lot of work to do, and they need to step back from this terrible situation that they have created and figure out a way to get a constitution written. And Biden has to get off his ass and make sure that we help Israel write that constitution. That is what we should be. So I leave you with those thoughts right now. A small country in a difficult part of the world that needs all the help it can get. Have a great day. Bye.